Morning, Ant, and good morning, everyone who's joining us for our Friday Live this morning. It's Friday, 8:30 in the UK. I've not done a Friday Live for a couple of weeks, so I'm really keen to have a good chat with Ant. It's been a while since we've done one of these together. Obviously, a lot's been happening. We're in October already. It feels like the year is just spinning past us. And a good opportunity to reflect on where our clients and partners and friends are, as well as playing in French this week. This is one of our live sessions, goes out live on LinkedIn, on Facebook and on YouTube, as well as recording for our podcast on Spotify. So thank you everyone for joining us. We've got some interesting reflections this week, and I've hardly seen you, which makes, I think, the conversation richer, because there's lots of things that have occurred to me that I think we should be talking about right now. So how are you, firstly? You all right?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm missing my cup of tea. I suddenly realised that I have no cup of tea to be drinking throughout this, but mostly good. It's been really nice getting out and about this week. Been in front of clients and going to offices and doing all the things that I remember doing nearly 2 years ago. So it's been really, really refreshing and really great to be in front of people, and you just get a different sense, a different vibe, a different understanding, a different depth of understanding, I think, of what's really going on in the world. I really enjoyed this week.
Good. And it's funny, isn't it? You forget what you've forgotten. So, in terms of going back into those environments, the depth of the interactions and non-verbal communication, I think, has really hit a lot of people. I'm hearing a lot of people kind of similar to me, forgetting all the things they used to do on their commute to get to work, where to park, what app to pay with, where to walk, where to stand. And there's a lot of that going on. But I would say it feels like a lot of busyness this week. Almost, I know many organisations like ours were looking at kind of, quite a strong rebound in April time. And then I think the Delta variant really pushed that back. We were all hoping September would be their second flourish, but it's not started in the same way. And looking at some of the stats last night, I see that some organisations have readjusted their expectations of an economic return. And it's down from what was kind of 72% down to 65%, and that's quite a big jump down. People are nervous. Budgets are being pushed back to 22. People coming off furlough. There's quite a lot happening, and I'm kind of watching this, thinking, is this the second wave of businesses not doing well? How are businesses actually going to come through this part? We've seen kind of more demand for wellbeing and mental health support, and I think that's great. That's recognition that organisations can see this whole shift and change back again is just as stressful, if not more, than before. There's new rules to learn. There's new ways of working, and people's relationships aren't the same. We have more things to divide us. Obviously, there's more polarization in the media, but there's more things and feelings about things that are quite important to people that have happened over the last year that actually get in the way of our close relationships and how we view people. So some people, saying, well, if you've not had a vaccine, maybe I don't want to sit next to you, or maybe I don't want to meet you, or maybe, there should be more mask wearing, and, people having quite strong opinions about their own environment, safety and health. And I think there's a huge pressure on people to be able to work through that. But I'm glad to see organisations supporting. And I think if I can continue a little bit more kind of into a bit of a conversation around this, I think what I'd like to explore really is what's being portrayed on the media sites that we see, that we've relied on to keep us connected, where people are still, really interacting and connecting more so in this digital world.
Yeah.
That's become more important. It's become in our face. And the use of those has changed. So certainly LinkedIn, for example, I see a lot more personal posts on there, people talking about the way their life and work has intermeshed. And what does that mean now in terms of what organizations need to provide for their people? And my big question is, should we all be offered a week off? There's lots of companies out there doing it.
Yes, I think we should.
That we should be doing. But there's something there, isn't there, about what we're seeing online There's a lot of good viewpoints about it. Oh, move to a 4-day week, or we're going to do this, or we're going to do that. How are people feeling when that's their main channel of information about work? And they're not getting the same things that everyone else is getting. Is it a facade? Is it just one or two that are getting all these things? Or is everyone doing everything for all their people to keep them happy? What are your thoughts?
No, I think it's a really timely conversation to be having this, and it was great not having social media for a chunk of this week. It was really good. I enjoyed Facebook and WhatsApp and every other communication channel that I'd usually use going down. It's been really interesting. I mean, right or wrong or whatever your views are on social media more broadly, as we know, it's there and it's a good tool for social comparison. You know, really having a look at what is going on in other people's worlds. The problem we all know, and there's lots of media attention on this, is it's not always the truth, or it's not the whole truth, is probably a more accurate reflection. It's often the best version of that truth. And we're seeing that a lot on LinkedIn, becoming a little bit more like Facebook. We were just talking about this before we came on, and it's becoming a little bit more about the human and about the person and about the people and about their life. And that's wonderful. That's really great to see. And there's also a kind of challenge for businesses that businesses face, in that everyone can see everything that you're doing as a business. Are you having a week off? Hang on, my friends are not having a week off, or they are having a week off, and this is happening here, and this is maybe making my feet itch a little bit here, and maybe this isn't the right place for me. And then they move role and maybe still are unhappy because the reality of those companies is not quite that. So it's a real challenge, I think, for businesses at the moment to deal with that social comparison that's coming through even more strongly on platforms like LinkedIn, which were more business focused, perhaps pre-pandemic. I don't know whether pandemic was the reason that it's shifted towards more people. Maybe it was going that way anyway. But it's a very interesting time.
It is, isn't it? And I've never been a fan for kind of big gestures and gimmicks in organizations, much more focused on kind of long-term emphasis on performance and well-being, and the combination there, because obviously it's quite short-sighted to simply offer everyone what they're after on the basis that actually, you know, if we all had everything we're after, you've got to be careful what you wish for, right? Because you might make it easier for organizations actually to work without us, or maybe look for different ways of employing people that actually puts our job at jeopardy. And that's the kind of the long-term vision, I think, that's really, really important, is like being able to balance up and weigh up the current context and scenario, and hold our nerve to a certain extent around pressure that is sometimes just blown out of proportion, exactly as you said, and not necessarily the true reflection of what's going on, or the reflection of what people want. I have to say, in my honest opinion, and I always do share my honest opinions, which is why I'm happy to have these conversations, you know, a week off isn't necessarily what everyone's after right now. I've spoken to a lot of people who've said to me, I've been at home for so long with my partner or whatever, and like, I don't want to be working next to them, sitting there doing the thing. They're really annoying me. I want to get back into the office and do some stuff, and I want to grow and learn. I want to improve my opportunities, my career. A week off is the last thing I want right now. Similarly, I hear the same thing from kind of Gen Z as well. It's like, we want to get on, actually. We don't want anything more delayed or stunted. We want to do something. And so I think it's a bit of a lazy kind of option for people to be able to just simply say, oh, look, you know, we'll make a grand gesture. We'll give everybody a week off to sort themselves out. Well, yes, it's been really stressful, but if you have the right approach to work in place, if you've got holidays and support for people who are struggling, then actually, you know, do people really need another week to be at home or elsewhere to think about everything that's gone on? Some people, yes, maybe. Yeah. Not everyone. So this one size fits all kind of approach just doesn't work for me. I think there's more to be had around exactly that. What you're talking about is bringing that human experience to the forefront. And one of the things that I've been talking about a lot this week with our marketing manager, Jess, is around that human element. Now, we all know, and we talk about humanizing the world of work a lot, and we all know what that means to us. But sometimes it's difficult to articulate when you say, oh yeah, I absolutely sign up to that. But what are we going to do differently? Because humanizing work or human leadership, that's not just empathy, care, and compassion. People automatically go to that space.
Yeah.
There's something here about, we know, if you think about an experience when you've been a customer or even just in the office, when someone's got their human switched on or not, don't you? And if you had to kind of test yourself and be like, actually, I'm going to, just consciously be aware in all my conversations and interactions today with who I'm speaking to, have they got their human switched on? Because I think we know more when they're not. We can tell when someone's got their human switched off and they're just going through the motions. And it's a very subtle thing. Joshua and I used to talk a lot about kind of, you can see someone's eyes light up. And clearly you can't see someone's eyes. They don't actually light up. But whether someone's in their human mode or not. And organizations need to ensure that when people log on for work, wherever that is, or turn up for work in their teams or their locations, whichever environment that needs to be, that they're keeping the human switched on. Because if not, we may as well all be robots. There is a human element here that we absolutely need to preserve in the working environment. And what really we mean by humanizing work is ensuring that we keep work human, that we don't allow the digital transformation to overtake us all, that we don't allow ourselves to go into that mode where we know that our human is switched off because we've got other things on our mind or whatever it is. And the leader's role is really to keep that human switched on. And how do we do that? That's the thing. It's not just empathy, care, and compassion. Absolutely, that can work for some people, but for others, that's not on the scale at all. So what is it that helps managers or helps people keep humans switched on when they're in a working environment?
Yeah, as you were talking, that was the question going on in my mind, because I think that's a really interesting question. I've never asked that, and the whole switch element, is that person really switching into the human experience? And in those meetings, in those moments, in those one-to-ones, in that group context, are they switched on in that way? And you're right, it asks a really interesting question, doesn't it, of what the role is of the leader. And I've been working on a lot of projects this week around leadership versus management, and kind of really looking at, maybe that's a subtle difference of what a leader is, right? So a leader is helping people to have that switched on and role modeling what it looks like to have that switched on more of the time, or most of the time, if not all of the time, if that's possible. And how can, I guess, not just one leader, because that's also a really difficult thing. If you're a leader in an organization and you have those characteristics or those traits, how do you help other and empower and build up other leaders? And I don't just mean hierarchical, like help my boss or help us as peer groups of a leadership team, but actually, how do we help everyone be a leader in human switched on? How does the team, how does everyone play that leadership role in creating that more human experience?
Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? Because we know, don't we, as customers, instantly, almost, it's like it's very switched on as customers. We really are expecting the human to respond. I'll give you an example, because I went out at the weekend with a friend I've not seen for a long time. So she arrived from a different part of the country, and I was really excited to see her. I took her out for a special lunch, and it was a place that I thought was absolutely wonderful, expecting really great service. And we got there and we got drenched walking there. It was absolutely tipping it down, right? So we were soaking wet, but we knew it was going to rain. So we'd taken some clothes to get changed into when we got there. And we walked through the door, and there was a number of people there, taking bills and kind of helping out and welcoming people through. And a woman there was just like, hello. And there was no acknowledgement of the fact that we literally looked like drowned rats. And I went to kind of say,
what are you doing?
Sorry, can we possibly, use your facilities to get changed before we come and sit down for some lunch?
Yeah.
But her face was completely switched off. There was no genuine smile. There was no kind of like, oh, of course, gosh, you poor thing, you know, oh my goodness, look at the rain. There was no conversation, no comment about it at all. Just quite a deadpan kind of fake smile, like. And I thought, do you know what? That's really interesting, isn't it? Because that's not what I expected. And I think customers everywhere are really demanding that there is more in terms of what they receive and what they're paying for. There's more opportunities to review people's performance now than ever. So actually I will review that. And I will say, you know, not the best greeting in all honesty. And for a really nice posh restaurant, that's not what they want to hear out there. But that's going to be up there, and that will help people choose whether they go there or not. And it's recognizing that everything is right there at the forefront right now. And we need our humans switched on totally.
I love that example, and I'm sure everyone that watches, listens to this will have their own version of that same story, where someone has just not quite tuned in, and it's I know it is a skill. It absolutely is a skill, and it can be learned. Of course it can, but there is also an element of how are you turning up, and what a business is doing to absolutely encourage this more human element. PwC did some great work on this recently. There's a great customer research review that says, you know, actually I think it's around 49%. It's around half. I can't remember the exact, but it's around half of customers in a similar situation are saying that they just don't feel a human connection. And of course, technology is getting in the way of that. A lot of people, you know, if you put through to a customer service, it's a bot, or you have to actually request to speak to someone. But it's not just about that. It is about exactly what you've just said. And when people are asking, well, why is a human experience important? Yes, it's important for what we started talking about, which is, should everyone have a week off? How do we attract the right talent? How do we maintain, improve, develop, grow, nurture our own people? But people are really missing the point. This is also a really important business strategy. Customers are expecting it. Customers want and expect, possibly now more than ever, to have that real human interaction, and you know it's being faked as well. So it has to be real, it has to be genuine. So therefore the question is, again, coming back to the leadership, and not just leadership teams and managers, we are talking about people within organizations leading this experience. How do they create that culture? What are they role modeling?
And that's it. It's absolutely how do people do that? And I love Sally's comment, because I absolutely agree with you, Sally. You know, people, you're right, you know, there are problems with people not being trained enough, and new staff kind of trying to pick so much up at once. And so maybe it might be helpful for us to just actually explore here, like from a personal perspective, Anne. So here's putting you on the spot, and me as well. So what is it that switches us, our humans, off at work? Because I know what switches my human off, because I know that I can go into, it's like almost like, for me, it's like a strong mode around delivery. If I'm put under pressure, if someone says to me, right, there's a time, like I need this in by midday, and I know that there's multiple things that I can influence but aren't necessarily within my control, I go straight into that mode of get things done. And it's almost like, you know, tunnel vision. And it can, whilst it can ignite my strengths around achievement to kind of get focused, that in itself can turn off some of my like relationship building strengths, or some of those human fabric pieces that make a difference, of like just checking out, did someone walk in and did they look unhappy actually, or I was expecting to hear from someone back today and they had a big thing on last night, I should probably just check in with them. It's the time for those things just slips, and then I feel guilty, and then you've lost your moment almost. It feels weird then to go back after midday and go, well, hang on a second, how was the thing last night? Because I would love to sit and talk to people all day about what's going on outside of work, and ask them how they are and what they need to do. But it has to be like almost like time bound, specific. And if I don't have the headspace to think about it, for me, it's cognitive capacity. I switch the human off. So when do you switch human off?
Time, I think, is really important. I've literally been working with a client this week who, you know, when they come to us, it's all about, we need help with time management. We need those skills for managers. Why do you need those skills for managers? Because we need to spend more time with our people. Okay, so when they do get in front of those people, let's say we solve that time management problem, and they do, I think the other thing is not knowing and I guess this is a blocker potentially for what questions do you ask? How do you explore that more humanness? What does that look like? What does great human behavior look like? And that kind of what does inclusive behavior really look like? We know what it in theory is, but in those situations, in those meetings, in those tough moments, how are people responding? And making sure, as Sally said, the training is there on those human behaviors and those human experiences, so that we can paint a better picture of what great looks like from a human leadership point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. So, if that lady had quite a stern face on, and actually maybe she wasn't having a great day, but if she'd responded to me to say, yeah, actually my socks are soaking and it's really uncomfortable, but I haven't brought anything with me, I would have completely felt differently about it. And it would have been that human piece of connection, of understanding, empathizing as well, but just understanding like that she's a human too. And any chink in someone's kind of armor for me is just like, oh, that's really lovely. Like, that person is genuinely really in a difficult situation. But when someone doesn't give you anything, they just kind of almost like we talk about the difference between a Duchenne smile, a genuine smile, versus a fake smile. Like, we can all tell if it's a fake smile. We use different muscles in our faces. And I think that's really important right now. And it's certainly something I'm looking out for. And I think Sally's tapped into something here as well, that the busyness, and exactly what we're talking about here, the cognitive overload, the busyness that's been created by so much new stuff going on and so much change around us all the time, means that we maybe do have less time to really consider and think. So how can we make that time? How can we make that still really, really important? And, maybe for me, it's something different, like rather than having the radio on in the morning when I'm getting ready for leaving the house, is maybe having it off and just having that quiet time and focusing my time in then on thinking about, okay, so what elements do I need to focus on in today? Does that mean that work's creeping more into my life? Or does that mean that work's actually just going to be more rewarding and I'm going to have a better feeling of kind of accomplishment at the end of the day? There's loads of different ways and angles that we can think about it that really changes how we are. What we need in terms of time switched off from work to mindfulness as well. There's a lot I'm not a big fan of mindfulness. I always talk about the fact that I'm not, but yet I actually do quite a lot of mindfulness. So it's like I'm one of those like kind of converts that's like a bit of secret convert. But I know a lot of leaders who just need a minute. They just need a minute. And it's like they've worked it out. They just need to be able to take that step out, to rethink, to regather their thoughts, and just really focus in and just take a breath, because there is so much going on. And I wonder whether that's at the heart of some of this, is that moment to take a breath, moment to reflect. We do so little reflection.
And I think, and again, it comes back to goal setting, and no matter, like, we all know the importance of purpose-driven goals and connecting those with people and helping align those goals and those objectives with someone's strengths. And when you have that energy, I think that's the other thing for me personally. If I don't feel I've got the energy, and that might be physical, I haven't been to the gym as much as I wanted to this week, or I haven't been on that run that enabled me to just get those good endorphins going, but also I might be doing tasks that don't play to my strengths, or I've delegated something and that's really not been playing to someone else's strengths, and then they've found that hard. And keeping a real eye and attention on your energy levels, because I think you're more likely to be more human and have all of these more intentional skills. I think that's the key, because these aren't natural. Even though it is human, it's not natural to be human at work. We've been told to have this professional mask on. So it takes intention to do these new things. Therefore, you have to have more energy and you have to be more conscious of that. So, going into meetings back to back, whether you're working remotely or hybrid, all of that's already taking a lot of your energy. It's zapping a lot of your inner energy. Maybe it's about doing less at the moment to try and focus more on building these more human skills. And then, of course, like any skill, when I learned to drive, goodness knows how many things you were thinking about at once, and it's impossible. So you don't drive very fast. You can't drive fast because you've got so much going on. But actually, over time, it gets more, and then you can drive quite comfortably. And I think that's what we're talking about here, isn't it? It's how we build those skills and make time for people at the moment with better goal setting, more goals that are aligned to people's strengths, being conscious of those things, not booking back-to-back meetings, being quite disciplined about creating these skills so that we can bounce forward much, much more strongly in the future.
Yeah, I love that. And there's several things in there that I'm kind of sitting there going, yes, but particularly the mention of skills. So I think with things like human leadership and humanizing work, I think it's really easy for people to scoot over the top in the same way they did with strengths. You know, oh, you know what you're good at, you're not good at. And it's so much more than that, right? The actual skill of developing human ways of working and developing a human experience and ensuring that that actually equates to performance and well-being. It is a skill, exactly that. It can be developed. It can be harnessed along with our strengths to be really powerful for us and for the people around us. Yeah. But I think there's a huge, huge risk that organizations are going to kind of just almost like use that tag of like, oh yes, just be more human in your relationship, and actually not equip their leaders either with the tools, the skills, or the confidence to be able to do these things properly. Because, and I'll use a really good example of a series that we started watching last night that blew me away. It's called Succession. So it's another just series that become available. So I don't know which channel it's on, but there is a person in there who is incredibly human and authentic in some quite serious kind of executive meetings. And I was laughing, almost rolling on the floor laughing. It made me laugh so much because it was so human and so honest and authentic. But it was exactly the unskilled version. It was to the extreme of damage. And I was thinking, gosh, we really need to help support organizations and leadership populations to do this well, because that is the exact opportunity we are opening the door to if people are not supported to equip themselves and to learn the confidence to do this really well. Is we are opening the doors to people genuinely feeling that it's okay to be able to share their incredibly different and unique thoughts and feelings about the world. And with all the stress and pressure that's on at the moment, there is a lot going on in people's heads, and it is vastly different to all the people around them, right? And with different experiences through COVID, but also generational experiences as well of the pandemic and what's been happening, industrial market differences. We've got to be really careful to make sure that people have got the skills to be able to do this really, really well, or we are risking some serious situations coming out of what we're proposing in terms of people being either more genuine or authentic without a skill, but also maybe more or empathetic, where they're actually so empathetic and caring for individuals that they're validating things that really don't work with the organizational perspective on performance.
And I haven't seen that, but the way you were telling the story in my mind, I can almost picture it quite clearly, because I think we've all been in those times, and not just in terms of those human skills, but any skill you're learning it in the environment of work. 70% hopefully of your learning is in the moment and on the job. And I think when we're talking to clients, it's almost, if you imagine every company in the world moving onto a certain digital platform, right, the same one, because it's relevant for everyone, and suddenly your people do not know how to use it. You would put this, and I know latest research is about 30% of CEOs are putting this, which is great, but you're putting this at the highest point of training. This is almost, when we talk about the skill gap crisis, this is the skill gap crisis, and people are kind of missing the fact that human experience is it's not a choice anymore. This is an essential skill that if your people do not have, and we've talked about the application on LinkedIn and people being able to see it. We've also talked about the impact on customers. This isn't a choice anymore. This is, whether you like it or not, this is the way the world is going. And you're right, the potential for it to go very badly wrong if people are not building those skills and having the safety within their organizations and the time to learn these new skills could be quite damaging. You're right.
I think so. Time is up. So we've had a really rich conversation. I know, but I think I guess for me, like, the so what here is, do we really want this world run by robots? Because the risk is we're going to head in that direction if we can't get people to do this stuff really well and bring the human in, and it's going to damage our long-term opportunities in so many fundamental ways. Let's preserve that human. Let's preserve that human in all of us. Look, Sally, thank you for your engagement this week, and for everyone watching and listening to our quite intense chat. I think I really enjoyed this, and as always, I hope everyone has too. I hope you'll look forward to joining us again for Friday Live's discussion next week on humanizing work, what's going on for us and our clients and partners on all our channels. Have a fantastic Friday, and I look forward to chatting to you again soon.
Yeah, see you soon.
Bye.